All right, today I'm going to change the oil on my Mercury 65 horsepower jet outboard. And I'm going to talk about other maintenance that needs to be done on my motor, my trailer, and my boat, including some of the unique things that you have to do to a jet that are different than a standard prop. Now, the first thing I have to do to change the oil out of this outboard is to warm it up. Now that the motor's warmed up, I need to trim it all the way up to get the oil to go down into the pan. One of the things I'm skipping right now is the trim oil, but that has to be done eventually. Now you're supposed to leave it like this for like 10 minutes or so, so while I'm waiting on it, I'm going to get out the user's manual and double check all my numbers. All right, it says 5.5 quarts of oil. I've got 6 quarts of oil here ready for the motor. Before I did this, I actually called Mercury direct just to verify all of the specifications. Now to lower this and make sure the top is level. Now to take the cowling off, there's a little lock handle here. You pull it to unlock it, you lift it up, and be very careful with these because they're expensive. You don't want to break it. I really don't want to break it. I think that looks pretty level. Now changing the oil out of this is easier than most cars. You have the oil filter, you have the oil drain down here. Now instead of buying Mercury's kit, which has a really short hose, I bought my own hose and oil and everything. That's the size hose you need. Now I got a firehouse bucket that I'm going to empty all my oil into, and then I can take this to a local automotive store and dump it there so they can recycle it. Fits over it perfectly. I might be able to cut this hose a little bit. That way I can have extra hose for any other projects that I have in the future. 5/8 wrench. Keeping the hose in the buckets wouldn't be a fun problem. There we go. Oil. Hose does not want to stay in the bucket. Right. I take this plug out. That was easy. Could do it by hand. This would be a real easy piece to lose. From what I'm told, you don't want to completely unscrew this or you'll mess it up. So it's going to take it a while for it to drain all the oil out. So I'm going to start cleaning up some of the oil I got everywhere. I do have cat litter just in case I spill a bunch of oil. Now the oil filter itself is probably going to be the hardest part to deal with. They're only supposed to be on here hand tight, but over time the heat causes it to drip down pretty strong. I may have to get a wrench. Yep. Probably should take this out too, the dipstick. I don't like using these grips. I'm going to give them a try. I'd rather have an actual like socket, which I know I don't have right now. Okay, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to go to the parts store and buy an actual socket. Thankfully, doing that will give this more time to drain so I get more oil out of the engine. All right, I got me an oil filter socket. Let's see if I can get this thing off. There we go. Okay, now I can get this off by hand, maybe. I'm gonna get a towel in there so I don't get oil everywhere. Right. I'm trying to keep my motor as clean as possible. I have a new Mercury oil filter here. And something I've noticed is the Mercury brand has 104 at the end and the Quicksilver brand has 103. They're both the same filter. The Quicksilver is just for non-dealers like Walmart or West Marine. Now it's kind of critical that I put some oil on this rubber gasket. And I'm going to use new oil on it. Some people use just the old oil, but I don't think it matters too much if it's old or new. I would rather use new. And then just put it on here hand tight. Going to put the little plug back in. I'm going to put the dipstick back in. Now we're ready to put oil back in it. Now you put the oil up here, little yellow oil cap. And I almost made a mistake. I got to tighten this drain before I fill it with oil, or all the oil is just going to come right back out of it. Would be really nice if I had something to stand on. I can't put the funnel in it. This will be fun. There's 4 quarts. There's 5 quarts. And I only need about half of this bottle. There we go. I'm going to check the dipstick. And it's about halfway up the dipstick where it should be. On the dipstick, obviously, you have a too low and a too high mark, and you want to hit right in the middle of them. When I first got this motor and it was brand new, the oil was right in the middle, and when I just removed all this oil, it was also right in the middle. So this newer 2018 Mercury motor didn't burn any oil, which is actually better than my Toyota Tundra, which does about half a quart in between changes or more. I'll put the cap back in and call this a done project. Now, one thing you need to do when the cowling is off is look at the fuel filter. The fuel filter is right here and it looks fine. I don't see anything clogging up in it yet. I'm going to look at the book real quick and see what it says about the fuel filter. I don't think you have to replace it every time you change the oil. It's one of those parts that can last a while. You just have to look at it and make sure it's not getting clogged up. Now, I'm not seeing a maintenance schedule in here, so I don't know when you're supposed to change the fuel filter out. So if you guys know, leave a comment below. I'm quite sure it's not every 100 hours. It's probably every 300 hours or something, or if you visually see that it's getting clogged up. Now I'm going to put the cowling back on and then show you guys something unique about a jet drive. I really do need to clean this up someday. Now, a jet pump does not have lower unit oil. What you have to do is after every single use, you have to put grease in the bearing. I have a little grease catcher to catch the grease when it comes out of this pipe. And I have a grease gun. This is a specific NLGI number 2 grease that is specific to jet drives. The Quicksilver or Mercury version is the ones that I would recommend highly. If you get the stuff that's like at Academy Sports, that is actually a different type of grease and you can't use it. It will ruin the bearing that's in this. And all you have to do is give it a couple of pumps. Like that. And you're done. But you have to do that every time you park your boat. You take the boat out, go fishing, do whatever, and then you come back and you park it. You have to put grease in it. Now, every 6 months, you have to go and put grease in all the fittings on the steering and everything in the back. And I just use the same grease when I do all of this. It's a higher quality grease that's more expensive. And I'd rather not have more than one grease gun, so I'm just going to use the best in all the parts. And that includes the wheel bearings, which should be done every 6 months as well. So when you put grease in the wheel bearings, put grease in all the nipples back here. And it only takes a couple of pumps. Some of them are harder to get to than others. Some of the nipples have holes where the grease comes out, so you can grab that grease and throw it aside. Now I'm just going to talk about the rest of the maintenance briefly. Like I said, every 6 months you got to do the wheel bearings. I'm going to do those off camera. The hub has a rubber cap that comes out, and then there's just a nipple in there, so I can put that grease gun on the nipple and put a few pumps of grease into my wheel bearings. In a year or two, I will have to actually take it apart and replace the wheel bearings. You have to realize that the trailer gets backed into water all the time, and water does intrude into the wheel bearings, which shortens their life. So it's something you actually have to do every few years, is actually replace the wheel bearings. Another thing every 6 months that you need to do is go through every nut and bolt on the trailer and make sure they're all tight, especially on newer trailers, which is something that I actually did a couple of weeks ago. Amazingly enough, I didn't find anything that was loose. Another thing you need to do with the trailer every time you park it is just take a quick look at it and make sure nothing is broken. I've actually broke the bunk brackets on this boat trailer a couple of times already. And if I hadn't looked after parking it, I would have never noticed. Other maintenance you need to do is just all visual. Always look at your wiring, make sure there's nothing that's, looks like it's getting burned up. Look at your fuses. Look at the trolling motor, look at the trolling motor bracket. It's always good to just look at everything as much as possible. Now, I can't think of anything else you have to really check. Boat maintenance isn't that hard. It's just easy to take a visual survey to see what's going on and make sure everything is working and in proper order. And this boat is actually a tunnel hull, so it's a good idea to get underneath it and look at the welds on the tunnel hull part, because they have to cut out a piece of the bottom of the boat and then raise it up and weld it all back in there. So if those welds start failing, your boat's going to sink. But there you have it. There's yearly, monthly, weekly, daily maintenance of a jet boat. And I really do love my 65 horsepower Mercury jet. If you guys like this video, please hit that thumbs up. And I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to watch my video. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time.